Good morning from Southwick House near Portsmouth. We're in the D-Day map room, and this is the actual map used to plan the D-Day invasion. We all know about the forecast then. Well, today's forecast for Scotland and Northern Ireland, it's going to be wet. For England and Wales, drier and brighter with a few showers. But I'll have more on all of that in 15 minutes.
And despite months of planning, meticulous preparation ahead of D-Day, well, on the day, it all came down to the weather. So let's speak to Carol, who's at Southwick House near Portsmouth. Carol, very good morning to you. The decision to go ahead with these was made right there where you are, and the weather really did play a pretty crucial role, didn't it?
It most certainly did, Ben, and what an honour it is to be here too, because we're actually in the D-Day map room. Now, if I get out of the way, you can see it in its glory. This is the one that was actually used. And we're in the house, as you said, where General Eisenhower took the decision to launch the D-Day invasion. Now, the invasion was originally planned for the 5th of June, but the decision was taken here to postpone it for 24 hours after Group Captain James Stagg predicted bad weather. And it's been called the most important weather forecast of all time. And if you look at the detail on that map, where everything is positioned, it was so intricate, so specific. And as I mentioned, James Stagg was responsible for advising General Eisenhower, who made the call to postpone the invasion until the 6th of June, when the weather was better. But even then, the weather still wasn't particularly good. And the weather had to be taken into account for air, for sea and for land. So it wasn't a simple case of, oh, it's going to be a moonlight night, things are going to be calm. That wasn't the case at all. I'll tell you more about that this morning, and also we'll speak to some of our guests who know a lot more about it than I do. So the weather on the 5th of June wasn't particularly brilliant then. Today, along the south coast, it's not too bad at all. For many parts of England and Wales, the forecast today is a dry and a sunny one with a few showers. But we do have some rain, heavy and persistent rain at that, across Scotland and also Northern Ireland. Now, the reason for this is low pressure is dominating our weather. You can see on the pressure chart the rain that came north.
Meteorologists were very important, as they are today, because D-Day was meant to be today, the 5th of June, 75 years ago, but somebody who knew what they were doing postponed it by 24 hours because the weather wasn't quite as glorious as it is today. Windy here, Carol, but really beautiful down on the south coast. I know you're only a few miles away, where those decisions were made 75 years ago.
That's absolutely right, Dan. We are in Southwick House near Portsmouth, from where the D-Day landings were launched. This is where the final decision was actually made to go ahead, and it was made in the very early hours of the 5th of June. Now, I'm standing next to these synoptic charts. These are representations of the actual weather on that day. And if you have a look at the dates, you can see the 3rd of June, the 4th of June, the 4th of June later on in the day, 5th of June, that's today down here, Dan. You can see low pressure very much in charge. We've got low pressure in charge of our weather today, but in a slightly different position. The 6th of June, see how it's developing. So it's fascinating to see, and to see the actual room with the actual map, with all the plottings of all the boats and, oh my goodness, I'm quite overwhelmed by the whole thing. But the weather today is much calmer. We have, as Dan said, got quite a breeze, and it's going to pick up over the next few days in the south. But the forecast for most of us today is in the north. We've got rain, and by the north I mean Scotland and Northern Ireland. And for the rest of the UK, for England and for Wales, it's going to be drier and brighter. We have a few showers around this morning, mind you, and we'll see some sunshine if you haven't got it. Good morning from Southwick House near Portsmouth. We're in the actual D-Day map room. You can see the detail behind of the ships. This grey area here actually illustrates they cleared minefield lanes to the Normandy beaches. Now, the forecast for us today is we've got rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland, drier and brighter across England and Wales. But I'll have more details in 15 minutes.
You can tell us more. Morning, Carol.
Good morning, Dan. Good morning, everyone. I want to show you a picture which is inside Southwick House. Look at this destroyer. Now, this picture was painted by an eyewitness that was actually on that destroyer, and it's his interpretation of events. So let's take a look at what actually happened.
Months and years of waiting were over.
Planning an operation as important as D-Day took months. But despite the greatest military precision, there was one thing they couldn't predict: the weather. The requirements were strict: a combination of clear skies, a full moon, calm seas and a low tide were all needed to make D-Day a success. This put enormous pressure on meteorologists to identify a suitable weather window at a time when predicting just 24 hours ahead was a challenge. The man responsible for advising General Eisenhower on the best day to launch the invasion was Group Captain James Stagg.
I had long had at the back of my mind the tactical use of weather, just to be able to pick out some little interlude which would be unknown to the enemy forces, that would allow us to make use of it and catch the people on the other side unawares.
Heading out to sea after a 24-hour delay because of the weather.
The invasion was originally planned for the 5th of June, but after Stagg predicted bad weather in the Channel, it was postponed by 24 hours. In the end, the weather on D-Day wasn't ideal. Strong winds and rough seas made for a difficult landing. But if the troops had waited for the next window, the fleet would have been battered by one of the worst summer storms to hit the English Channel in decades. As it was, the success of Stagg's forecast allowed the troops to land on the French beaches, and the tide of World War II began to turn. Well, we are inside the actual D-Day map room, and I'm joined by Colonel Jeremy Green, who knows all about it. Good morning, Jeremy.
Good morning, Carol. Welcome.
Thank you. It's an honour to be here. So tell us a bit about this map. It is amazing. It is the actual one used.
Absolutely. Used by Admiral Ramsay to get the troops onto the beaches of Normandy for Operation Neptune, which is a naval operation. And all the boats would assemble in this Zulu area here, rapidly called Piccadilly Circus because it was so busy, to come down through these cleared minefield lanes, this large German minefield that extends all the way to Norway, obviously onto the beaches. And for me, the key point is the beaches are shown: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau and Sword. Now you're talking about the weather. The weather was good, but the seas were still very choppy and the wave height was quite high as well. So it was not an easy passage, but good enough to get the troops onto the ground.
And the weather was important for all the different troops. So there was the Navy, there were the ground troops as well.
They all wanted something different.
So tell us about the conditions they wanted.
Well, each of them wanted something different, as you alluded to. So therefore the weather forecast had to become almost everything to everybody, and also paradoxically the weather here was worse than it was over there. So of course you've got those environmental conditions as well to consider when you're experiencing something different to the troops on the ground. The Royal Navy wanted a full moon because obviously they needed to see their landing sites. We had to have low tides for the troops and all sorts of things like that. So it was quite a compromise that the poor old weathermen had to come up with.
And it must have been quite a daunting task for Group Captain Stagg to have to say to General Eisenhower, we don't think we should go on the 5th, it should be delayed.
Absolutely. The two men under the most enormous pressure were Stagg and Eisenhower, and it fell to them and their professional credibility and their courage to make final and irrevocable decisions that would affect the lives of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and sailors.
Now, how many people would have put that forecast together? Because in those days, it wasn't as accurate as it is now.
No, it's more an art than science, indeed. And there were teams here and in London, and Stagg was here, but drawing very heavily on our Met Office at Dunstable.
Jeremy, this is fascinating. We're going to talk to you again later on, but for now, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.
And the detail on this map, look at the ships. I'm quite overawed by it. It's such an honour to be here today. Now, the weather outside here near Portsmouth is actually rather nice. It's sunny, we've got blue skies, quite different in the north of the country, because in the north today, in Scotland and Northern Ireland, we have got some heavy and persistent rain, and that's due to low pressure. Yesterday, we saw a lot of rain moving from the south towards the north, courtesy of low pressure and its attendant front, and that's what we have today in Scotland and Northern Ireland.
One place which was crucial to all of this, where those decisions were made, is not too far away from where we are this morning. It's at Southwick House, around 7, 8, 9, 10 miles away from here. I don't know precisely. Carol will be able to tell you that, because that played its own vital part in D-Day. Meteorologists were just as important in 1944 as they are to us today. Morning, Carol.
Good morning, Dan. You're quite right. We have got a fabulous location here this morning in Southwick House, and we're in the actual D-Day map room with the actual map which was used to launch. Now, somebody that knows a lot about it is with me this morning, Andy Gibson, lead researcher into this D-Day map at the University of Portsmouth. Good morning. Andy, tell us everything you know.
Well, there's two main things that we're looking at this map. As we can see on the area where the Operation Neptune carried through, we can see that there are thousands and thousands, and we think over 100,000 different pinholes, and they were all made by these little place markers. So as the night of D-Day went through, the senior commanders were in this room, and they were actually watching these place markers being moved down through the channel as they made their way to the Normandy beaches. Those holes are an amazing story, and we're mapping those holes to help us understand what the Allied commanders actually saw on the night of D-Day. But on the other hand, they now, 75 years later, are creating their own problem in that every single one of those holes is a little point where moisture can get in and bacteria can get into the map. And we're now using high-resolution cameras and our hyperspectral imagery with our collaborative partners to try and understand where the map is damaged and maybe how we can help the service police to maintain the map for the next 75 years.
Andy, it's so intricate. We're talking to you again later. We've run out of time just now, but thank you for that insight so far. Thank you very much. And you can see here beside me the key, so the battleships, the cruisers, the Monitor, for example. Now, we know the weather was not great on the 5th, but it wasn't very great either on the 6th, which is why things were postponed from the 5th to the 6th. Today, too, we've got low pressure dominating our weather. And for the north of the country, well, we've got rain in Scotland and Northern Ireland, but for the south, for England and Wales, we are looking at a drier day, a brighter day with some showers. Good morning from Southwick House, home of the Service Police. I have one of the beautiful dogs with me on the eve of the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Behind me, you can see the beautiful flower bed planted by the officers to commemorate the anniversary. And the weather, well, it's sunny here for England and Wales. It's going to be dry with some showers and sunshine. For Scotland and Northern Ireland, you have some rain. But I'll have more from the map room in 15 minutes. Thank you, Dan. You're absolutely right. And I want to start by showing you this amazing painting behind me. Now, this is actually an artistic interpretation of events from an eyewitness, and that's Norman Wilkinson. And he was actually on board this destroyer. How he put it together was like this. So we've got all these individual pencil drawings of the weather as he saw it, and the time is at the top there in each picture, or at the bottom on D-Day. Now, if you look at this landmine, for example, not landmine, line craft, I should say, full of troops, can you imagine what it would have been like? Choppy seas, battling with seasickness, and then when they landed on the beaches, having to battle with the enemy. Just, it's mind-boggling. Now, if the weather played an important role in that, of course, so let's take a look at the events around that time.